Hello and welcome to Insights, the podcast with your host, Joe Pane. Join me in this deep exploration of our personal journeys from ambition to meaning, where we stop living life fast and start living life deep. This is a journey of waking up and realizing that our lives have never been about us, but about others. True success leaves positive ripple effects on other souls. I believe that success needs to be redefined from our own personal ambitious endeavors to be redefined as the value that we leave and give to others around us. Join me now as we begin this journey to deeper connections, even more fulfillment, some fun, curiosity, life, love, and all good things. Your deeper journey from ambition to meaning starts right now. Hello and welcome to episode 30. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate deeply, again, wonderful messages that I keep getting. So thank you so much. And welcome to episode 30. And I thought what we would do in this episode is explore the ultimate emotional compass, which of course is our values. My personal definition of values is exactly that it's our emotional compass. And I thought, I've literally got somewhere between 20 and 30 key distinctions of what values are and what they're not, what this compass actually is. So I thought I would split these episodes into part one and part two, because across episode 30 and 31, I want to share with you my insights into this incredible emotional compass if we are aware of it. So first of all, when it comes to values, I believe that this journey of life is a journey of values. And what I mean by that is our values continually evolve and transform. As we go through life, as we go through the chronological time of life, our priorities change. Different phases of life, our priorities change. So what mattered to us when we were 20, years of age might not matter when we're 40. Well, it's highly unlikely that would matter. I personally know that what used to matter to me when I was 18, 19 doesn't even register anything now at the age of 50. So, and I dare say that when I'm 60 or 70, there'll be other priorities there that will change. So our values, our emotional compass, even though it's facing true north changes. It evolves, just like everything in nature changes. The purpose of our values is to bring some kind of order to chaos. So what's been fascinating is in terms of the COVID situation, what we've been going through over the last couple of months now, and as we begin to see the light, certainly here in Australia, and I think around the world, looking at the overall statistics, everything seems to be reversing, which is wonderful to see. And so the purpose of values is to bring order to chaos. What that means is that it is through our values that we make sense of our world. Our values are like a filter that opens the door to how we create meaning. Because if we don't really know or don't put any effort into working out what matters and what doesn't matter, what matters most, what matters least, if we don't explore or challenge ourselves so we can see what really matters to us, then it's kind of like living a life. I forget the name of the philosopher, but whoever said, that life is there to be examined. An unexamined life is like a wasted life or something. I can't remember who said that. So our values are designed for us to have some kind of consistency, a compass that we come back to when we're riddled in uncertainty and there's unknownness going on, or there's confusion in our lives, or there's a crisis of some kind, or there's a fork in a road of some kind. It's values that we come back to that create order out of that chaos. And by order, I don't mean control. I don't mean predictability. I don't mean that kind of thing. I mean where we are just making sense of the world. And, we cannot not communicate through our values. So I thought I'd share that with you. Another distinction about this emotional compass is that I believe that there's a big difference between soul values and ego values. Values are, let me explain what I mean by that. So values are a core part of our identity. And there are fundamentally two kinds of identity. There's our psychological identity and there's our existential identity. Our psychological identity is expressed through all the roles that we play in life: business owner, father, mother, brother, sister, team member, employee, coach, trainer, whatever the roles are that you and I play in our lives. And there's a psychological identity that goes with that, where we tend to define ourselves by our results. We define ourselves by feedback. We define ourselves by the legacy that we leave other people, the difference that we're making, how we define that, how do we know that we're doing that. These are all psychological roles that we have. Psychological, that's our psychological identity. And I believe that our psychological identity is driven by a conscious set of values. But our soul values, our existential identity, is the ineffable, the indescribable, the consciousness that is bringing awareness. It is, if we ever choose to stop and pause for a moment in life, have you ever been curious in terms of like, what is it that is seeing through your eyes? Like, what is causing you to experience your five senses? Why is it that a body can breathe 1 minute and stop breathing in the next minute? Like when someone actually passes away, like where does that person go? What happened to them? Where have they disappeared? Where's the pilot to the body? Where's the actual thing that keeps the body going? Like, where does it come from? What is it? It's ineffable. It's indescribable. It's something that's beyond. And I think, well, based on my experience of life anyway so far, I believe that fundamentally it's our soul values, deeply unconscious values, that actually drive us. It's the soul that knows where we're going. It's kind of like the soul is the driver of the car, where the passenger, the ego, the psychological identity, is the passenger in the car, and the car itself is our body. So I'll say that again. It's like our soul values. Our soul is the driver of the car. That's the existential identity. The psychological identity, which are all the roles that we play, is expressed as the passenger in the car, and the car itself is the body. And the driver knows where we're going. The definition of a well-behaved passenger is someone who is either very quiet. Well, let me say it like this: a well-behaved passenger. Well, let me say it better. Let me say it betterer. A misbehaving passenger is telling the driver where to go. It's telling the driver, come on, go through that line. It's telling the driver, try and take control of the car. A well-behaved passenger is just sits along for the ride and can think what they want to think, look at what they want to look, perceive what they want to perceive, create meaning in any which way they want. And the passenger thinks that he or she knows where they're going, but the soul driver actually knows where they're really going. It's like the driver in our life, that driver of that car is the true entity of who we are. And it's deeply unconscious. Have you ever, with incredible frustration, tried to make something happen in your life and it just doesn't happen? And then it's not until you just give up or let go or have the wisdom of knowing when to quit or having the wisdom of knowing when to let go that things just happen. And that particular thing that you were trying to make happen wasn't meant to happen, but something else happened instead. And whatever happened instead was perfect, absolutely perfect. So our soul values are deeply unconscious. I remember reading, I read him almost every week, Dr. David R. Hawkins. I've been enamored with his work, his language, for the better half of, 10, 15 years now, most of my coaching career. And he actually says that the ego is a karmic wind-up toy. Karmic wind-up toy, which just happens automatically. We live under the illusion that we're making all of these conscious choices, but really it's the driver of the car, the soul entity, the existential entity within us that is doing all the driving. And the more faith we put into life, the more faith we put into our emotional compass, which feeds back to us emotionally when we're in alignment, when we're not in alignment, listening to that instinct, listening to that gut, whatever you want to define it as, is something that takes incredible faith. And I think that's a wonderful way to live. It's letting go of control. So whether you agree with this or disagree with this, I guess if we can just put that to the side and just, I guess, embrace this with some kind of curiosity. But that's how I live my life. And so far, my life's turned out quite, mighty fine. So, in other words, when my ego is trying to make things happen too much, trying to force things, that's when I get resistance from people, from markets, from communities, from different things I'm trying to make with my body. If I'm ever injured from my running, if I'm pushing it, it's like there's resistance even from the body. But when we let go, what do they say? Let go and let God. The soul knows where we're going. The body is the car, going back to that metaphor. And sometimes the soul will say to the passenger, hey, listen, we need to pull over. We've got a bit of a low pressure on that front left tire and we're low on fuel. And a misbehaved passenger, an out of control ego will say, no, bugger that, keep driving. Come on. We've got to get there. Bugger the tire. We've got enough fuel. You'll make it. It's okay. You know what you're doing. And of course, if the driver decides to not stop, then the driver knows, the soul knows in its incredible wisdom that that the car's gonna have to pull over at some point. It's like when we don't listen to our body giving us feedback, we ignore it, and then that lowly pressured tire becomes a flat tire. We run out of fuel, and now we're stuck in between petrol stations rather. We're stuck in the middle of nowhere. It's called a crisis, or it's called some kind of problem that we have in our life. So the soul knows when the car needs to be serviced. It knows when the car needs to pull over and just get some top up of fuel or top up of pressure or cleaning of the windscreen or something like that. So there's a big difference between the existential identity of our soul, the driver of our car, versus the passenger of our car, which is our ego or our psychological identity. So the more I enter this journey, the deeper I experience this journey of life and learning all this stuff and teaching it and coaching it and sharing it, the more giggles I get, the more I'm able to laugh at the psychological identity aspects of myself and of others. Now, I don't laugh to others because it's disrespectful and be grossly misunderstood, and I can't be bothered with the repercussion of all of that. But I often laugh at the world because I can see all these psychological identities just playing out. I laugh at myself all the time, at the ridiculousness of myself, the ridiculousness of my crazy mind that goes off on a tangent at times and just wastes time or whatever it might be. And it's when I'm aligned to that driver of the car, life feels good. There's a flow. There's an easiness about it. There's a connection about it that I can't explain. So that's what I mean when I say that there's a difference between soul values and ego values. There's a massive difference. So the way that we listen to that driver is to go within, and there's a voice inside of us that is not our ego. It's the voice of love. It's the voice of patience. It's the voice of wisdom. It's the voice that knows without knowing how it knows. It's the voice. It's something that you will learn to access maybe via meditation or when you're in flow doing something, or if you love working with your hands and you're fixing something and you get into the mode of that, or the fulfillment of completing something or fixing something or creating something or playing a musical instrument, or it's those moments there that the driver is saying, good on you. You're being a well-behaved passenger. Now, the thinking that we have, all the thoughts that we have, we are not our thoughts. We are simply not our thoughts. I know that in past podcasts I have said we are the sum total of the thoughts. We become what we think about. That is still true. But what I'm referring to there is we become what we think about. It's our psychological identity that is becoming what we think about. But the soul doesn't have to think. The soul is everything. The soul knows. And I'm just increasingly curious and fascinated by connecting with that aspect of myself and connecting with that aspect with another. When you have a deeply moving emotional moment from you and another, those beautiful, tender, unspoken moments, that's soul to soul. And whether it's true or whether it's not, it makes me feel comfortable to believe that the soul in you is the soul in me, As the Jacksons used to sing in Can You Feel It? The blood inside of me is the blood inside of you, and I'm not going to sing it. But I love that lyric. So as I come to a close for this first part of the journey into our emotional compass, I've just noticed on my, I've got some notes here. I've just given you 3 dot points of my 30 dot points on values. So, but I thought I'd leave you with that metaphor, that the driver of your car is who you really are, the part of you that is least familiar, yet the most familiar. And that's the existential identity that we have. And the existential identity in me is the same as the existential identity in you. That's, filter free, content free. It's story free. It's historically free. You know what I mean? Like, it's got no history, no story, no nothing. It's just essence. It's the essence. It's like when you connect with your favorite pet, or you connect with nature. That's the essence that we're connecting with. What is essential. I mean, language is just so beautiful. It is essential. Essential. That's what essence is. So that's what we're connecting with the car. And the psychological identity, which is the role that we play in our work and the roles that we play every day in our, roles in our families and our companies or clients, or whatever your situation is. These are merely psychological identities that we continue to evolve through. So, and the more you realize this, the more aware we all become of this, the more deeper our giggle can be over laughing at ourselves. And of course, the body is the car, and the car is temporary, but the car is how the soul is one of the ways that the soul gives us feedback through the car. If there's a vibration in the back tire, we need to listen to what that is. It's really, really important. So I'll wrap up part 1, and I'm looking forward to tuning in to episode 31 next week when we go into part 2. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed that distinction, and we'll continue our journey into the ultimate compass, the ultimate emotional compass, next week. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your week. And hey, if you're listening to this, well, clearly you are, if you can hear my talk. If you haven't subscribed yet to my podcast, would dearly love for you to do that. And thank you for the 5-star reviews. It's been amazing. We've got, I think, for 54, 55 5-star reviews. We'd love to get that up to 100. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe away on Spotify or Apple. That would be terrific. And enjoy. And guys, I look forward to reconnecting for part 2 of the Ultimate Emotional Compass. Bye for now. Have a great week. See you guys. I'm Joe Pane, and you've been listening to Insights, the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you're thoroughly loving the journey of these messages, please feel more than welcome to leave a review. And be sure to leave a comment on what you've been learning and how useful this has been to you, and how you've been sharing this with those around you. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to being with you again very soon in the next episode of Insights, the podcast.